Good morning. My name is Jenny Hobbs, and I serve as president on your DuPage UU Church Board of Trustees. We want to welcome everyone this morning to our open and inclusive virtual community. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and pledge to support one another as we explore these paths. We are so glad you were able to find us and join us for our live-streamed services today. Please check the church website at www.dupageuchurch.org for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find a number of ways to be in community with us as well. This Sunday, join us at our Zoom coffee hour. Zoom gives us a way to create small groups at random. This way, you might be grouped with someone you haven't met yet and get to make a new friend. The number of 4-person groups depends on how many people attend. We hope to see you there. The Zoom link can be found on the Members tab of our website and in the weekly church email. I have an announcement from the auction committee. Auction 2020, Star Trek, The Final Frontier. Well, the final 2 weeks anyway, leading to a 3-day virtual auction experience. Boldly proceed to dupageuchurch.org/auction2020, where you'll find information leading to auction tickets, donations, suggested offerings, and how to create a profile for viewing these amazing auction items and bidding. The auction committee would love to have your donations submitted by October 30th to enter into the online catalog. There will be access to bid Friday, November 6th through noon on Sunday, November 8th, and a cool Zoom party with entertainment in the middle on Saturday, November 7th. Look for the link to the Auction 2020 information under quick links on the church website homepage, in emails coming your way, and in the October newsletter. Help DuPage UU Church live long and prosper.
Good morning. My name is Bob Harris, and I am a member of our church's Ministerial Search Committee, the group that will find our congregation's next minister. We would like your help in one very important way. Our committee neglected to include a question about race and ethnicity of our members on our congregational survey. We apologize for this oversight. Since we do need this information in our search process, we are creating a new, very short survey to gather this information. We plan to send it out the first week of November, and we will need answers within 1 week. Please keep your eyes open for the second survey. Also, please consider signing up for one of the 2 remaining cottage meetings this Monday and Tuesday evening, and also for our Beyond Categorical Thinking workshop on Saturday, November the 14th. You can find the details on these events at our Ministerial Search information page on the church's website. Please mark your calendars to take our second survey during that first week in November. Thank you for your help, and have a great week.
Good morning. On a day when we are remembering lost loved ones and ancestors, I thought of these words from one of my mentors in ministry. Arvid Straube asks, what is it that you need to do? What is it that you need to do in the face of death to make your life shine in the memory of others and to die with a satisfied mind, as the old song says? It's probably going to be a different answer for each of you, but there's consensus in the great religions of the world that it has something to do with loving and serving and letting go of our greed, our ignorance, and our hatred. Let it be about awakening to the present moment when the infinite beauty of the universe is available to you with all of its joy and pain. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Our chalice lighting this morning is going to be led by Harper Harcharik.
Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral heart, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home.
Thank you, Harper. Our opening hymn is number 1002 in the Teal hymnal, Comfort Me.
I invite you to join me in our spoken and sung affirmations. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
It is time to gather. Today we are talking about listening to our ancestors. This is something that the Mexican community does well. In Mexico and around the world where there are Mexican populations, they celebrate a holiday called the Day of the Dead, where they remember and honor ancestors who have died. The holiday starts on Halloween, October 31st, and goes until November 2nd. The roots of the Day of the Dead go back some 3,000 years to the rituals honoring the dead in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The Aztecs and other people living in what is now central Mexico held a cyclical view of the universe and saw death as an integral, ever-present part of life. Day of the Dead is not a Mexican version of Halloween, though the two holidays do share some traditions, including costumes and parades. On the Day of the Dead, it's believed that the border between the spirit world and the real world dissolve, and during this brief period, the souls of the dead awaken and return to the living world to feast, drink, dance, and play music with their loved ones. In turn, the living family members treat the deceased as honored guests in their celebrations and leave the deceased's favorite foods and other offerings at grave sites or on the ofrendas or altars built in their homes. Ofrendas can be decorated with candles, bright marigolds alongside food like stacks of tortillas and fruit. In 2017, Disney and Pixar released the animated movie Coco. And in this movie, we follow a 12-year-old boy named Miguel who is accidentally transported to the land of the dead, where he seeks the help of a deceased musician who he believes is his great-great-grandfather, to return Miguel to his family among the living. The movie does a great job of showing the traditions and rituals of the Day of the Dead celebrations. And at the end of the movie, Miguel and his living family are celebrating with past ancestors, and Miguel sings the finale song called Proud Corazon. The Spanish word corazon translates to heart, but can also mean people who are close to you and mean a lot to you. So last week, we gathered virtually a group of youth and Vera on piano to sing the song Proud Corazon. And here it is.
Say that I'm crazy or call me a fool, but last night it seemed that I dreamed
Remember Me by Margaret Mead. To the living, I am gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated, but to the happy, I am at peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So, as you stand upon a shore, gazing at a beautiful sea, remember me. As you look in awe at a mighty forest and its grand majesty, remember me. As you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never be gone.
In many cultures, an intentional time of remembrance of ancestors is a long-held tradition. It seems important to take time in this sacred space to name and remember those who've touched our lives but are no longer among the living. Many of you have sent pictures of ancestors and loved ones. Thank you. We will share a slideshow of ancestors while our choristers lead us in a chant which you are invited to join in singing if you wish. You're also invited to speak aloud from wherever you are, naming anyone whose loss you feel and wish to remember on this All Souls Day. Let us enter this time reverently, caring for the tender feelings we have at such times. Let this be a moment for us to reach across lifetimes and unbridgeable distances, recalling those that may seem just out of reach now, remembering the blood of the ancients flow in our veins.
'Tis the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, and the circle of life remains. 'Tis the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, and the circle of life remains. 'Tis the hope of a new world that runs through our veins, and the old worlds pass, and the future is in our hands. 'Tis the hope of a new world that runs through our veins, and the old worlds pass, and the future is in our hands. 'Tis the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, and the circle of life remains. 'Tis the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, and the circle of life remains. 'Tis the hope of a new world that runs through our veins, and the old worlds pass, and the future is in our hands. 'Tis the hope of a new world that runs through our veins, and the old worlds pass, and the future is in our hands. 'Tis the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins,
In this time of acknowledging loss, let us reach out to each other, we who are still among the living and still needing each other for support. Naming of the noble dead, of all saints and all souls, observing Dia de los Muertos, or the Celtic Day of the Dead Samhain, is a custom reflected in many cultures of the world. That last one, Samhain, may be familiar to you as a day that's come down through history, changing as time went on, into the day now observed by people, especially children, as Halloween. In the old custom, it was a feast in honor of the dead, but it was not so ghoulish as Halloween has become. Having spent a good portion of my life following an earth-centered spiritual path and inspired by the mythology of my family's Irish heritage, I've really loved the idea of the old Celtic festival of Samhain, a day when they say the veil between worlds grows thin and the living and dead can communicate with each other again. I don't believe that story literally, but I love the imagery and what that means for the living, remembering those who've already left this life. Is there something possibly that I left unsaid during my loved one's lifetime? Can I say it now, even though they are dead? If the story is that the veil between the world of life and the afterlife grows thin, maybe I will have a chance to speak those previously unspoken words. There is a thing I say in every memorial service I conduct as part of the chalice lighting. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in being born. It is sacred in its living. And it is sacred in its dying. This was written by the Reverend Edward Searle, whom some of you may have known as he served in ministry in this area for many years. His words are a reminder that the whole cycle of life is special. Furthermore, all lives are special, no matter how the life was lived. In some faith traditions, there are teachings about a literal or figurative circle of life, birth, life, death, rebirth, a continuing wheel. My first experience of this circle of life as a conscious and aware person came when I was 4 or 5 years old, with the birth, 4 and 5 years old, with the birth and then the death of my baby brother, Christopher. Unknown to anyone, he contracted encephalitis and died at the age of 13 months. Loss, the grief that overtook my family, the funeral, all that was new and scary to me. On the day that my parents took me to the cemetery for the first time, there was also a military funeral happening in another part of the cemetery. The gun salute only made this confusing and upsetting experience of visiting my brother's grave even more unsettling for my 5-year-old self. Later in life, as grandparents went one by one, I was more prepared. When certain comrades and colleagues died, I was more prepared. When the first Navy hospital corpsman died in Afghanistan after 9/11, his name was Michael Van Johnson, and he was a young man that was among many I had trained. And even then, I was prepared for that death. But as a child, losing my brother, I had no frame of reference, no understanding what death meant. This tragedy was a formative experience of my life. In that stage of my life, in the conservative Christian faith of my family, we wrestled with the notions of all saints and all souls. Some may know in the Catholic teaching, the day to honor all souls is for all the baptized and deceased people who wait in purgatory until such time as they may ascend to heaven. By all saints, they refer to those who have already ascended to heaven and sit at the right hand of God. In my own Baptist upbringing, children were not baptized. In that tradition, the belief was that baptism must be entered into consciously and intentionally, which meant that one had to be an adult to be baptized. So what is a Protestant family to believe when an unbaptized infant has died? I recall a rationalization that God knows all small children are still innocent beings, and so those that die are automatically taken to heaven. This was a lot of theology for a 5-year-old, as I was then. But this was what I grew up with, only later finding my way to an earth-centered path I mentioned earlier, and even later our UU faith. We honor those we have loved and lost in physical form, yet who stay close to us in some numinous form. An unknown poet speaks to this in I Heard Your Voice in the Wind Today. I heard your voice in the wind today, and I turned to see your face. The warmth of the wind caressed me, and I stood silently in place. I felt your touch in the sun today, and its warmth filled the sky. I closed my eyes for your embrace, and my spirit soared high. I saw your eyes in the window pane as I watched the falling rain. It seemed as if each raindrop fell, it quietly said your name. I held you close in my heart today. It made me feel complete. You may have died, but you are not gone. You will always be a part of me. As long as the sun shines, the wind blows, the rain falls, you will live on inside of me forever, for that is all my heart knows. After a short interlude, I wish to turn next to the ancestors of Unitarian Universalism. At first, I invite you to join your voices in song. We are singing a Navajo chant, Ancient Mother. It is 1069 in the Teal Hymnal.
As a people of memory, as inheritors of our ancestors' legacy, we hold their stories tenderly. United in our hope for the future, we glean the wisdom from their diverse journeys. May we continue to trust in love as we face our future together. The offering for the work of this church will now be taken and gratefully received.
We have named many personal ancestors, saw many of their pictures. When we paused a moment ago, we were just beginning to contemplate a different type of ancestor, our spiritual and metaphorical ancestors from our faith movement, Unitarian Universalism. So let us now lift up some of our spiritual ancestors. These are the ones whose names reached through history and touched us, such as Louisa May Alcott, a novelist and poet who was also a feminist and worked for the abolition of slavery. We may think of certain Unitarian political leaders, such as both presidents named Adams, and perhaps even the British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain. Let us recall Ralph Waldo Emerson and Margaret Fuller, both Unitarian transcendentalists. Let us honor writers and teachers for children, such as Sophia Lyon-Fawes and Beatrix Potter. Our UU ancestors are many, from Francis David to William Ellery Channing and thousands more. And since we are honoring metaphorical ancestors, let us not forget our national ancestors, some of whom also happen to be or were at least sympathetic to Unitarianism, such as Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Of course, we cannot mention ancestors and ignore issues that we should condemn, such as Jefferson and his slaves. History is messy, whether we are speaking about nations, religions, or even our own families. That reminds me of an unpleasant truth. Whether it be figures from history or ancestors in our own families, there may be someone about whom we have conflicted feelings or had a conflicted relationship. Human relationships, messy as they are, may follow some primrose path, but as Shakespeare noted, one may find misfortune at the end of a primrose path. Over the years and at several different churches, hospitals, and community centers from my past career, I've counseled a number of people who shared that one of their parents had been an alcoholic and not a good parent at all. On this day of honoring the dead, and if one has such an ancestor, how do we honor that person? Should we honor them? And as one of those I've counseled said to me, and here I might ask who was counseling whom, she said that she had learned to honor her dad for simply bringing her into life, as well as hard lessons that helped her forge an identity different from the life that her dad had led, one that she might not have found otherwise. Her growing up had been a crucible experience, as it was for so many of us, and that helped her shape her life in the positive direction she needed. Another Unitarian ancestor, Mark DeWolf, was one whose life was changed by AIDS, and he in fact died early in the epidemic. In his later days, he reflected on life and death and once preached this message, and I quote, "It takes courage to face death, and it takes courage to live in the face of death. The sources of such courage are not in the outside world. They are not in special revelations or in the inspirational messages of gurus. The sources of courage are found in the inner soul, nurtured with love, inspired by faith, united in the worshiping heart." I did not know Mark, but part of my early career was spent caring for people living with HIV and AIDS, and I know well the inner reserves of strength that one can call upon. I've seen this also with those I've cared for or cared about who suffered with cancer, both in hospitals and in my own family. In so many cases, the lesson I learned was to cherish every day of life, living, truly living, filling those days with love and holding those we love close. We close today with a poem, a prayer really. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping, greenly spirits of trees and a blue, true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. This poem is by another UU ancestor, E.E. Cummings, and can be found in his book, Chai Pei. It celebrates life, knowing that life is short and that we should make the most of every day. Let us also celebrate life, knowing that death is a part of that cycle of life, and let us make the most of what we have, sharing love with all in our lives, even for those with whom we might not have always gotten along. Let us be peacemakers in this life and beyond. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. I invite you to join in singing our closing hymn, We Are. It's 1051 in the Teal hymnal. The dead have never left. They are ever with us in our hearts. Though this day of remembrance may be tinged with sadness and loss, let us also recall the joy of life we have and had with those now gone. Let our lives speak for us so that one day others will remember each of us at a celebration like this one. Let us live out the blessings of life, sharing with all others whose lives we touch, all whom we love. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Go now in peace.